Uh, Good morning, dear colleagues. It's my great pleasure and honor and privilege to be here today and to have this opportunity to speak to this distinguished audience. And I would like to thank very much the organizers for the kind invitation. So the topic of my speech today is earthquake-resistant structures, which are the key element of seismic resilience. And I will start with some data about consequences of natural disasters. According to the data of Munich Reinsurance Company, there in average, in last decades, in average, about 62,000 people die per year due to natural disasters. And about half of them is due to geophysical events, mostly earthquakes and tsunamis. And in addition, there is a great loss, about, again, in average, $165 billion per year. Of course, we cannot prevent natural hazard, but what we can do, we can mitigate the consequences. And the keyword is resilience. Also, this conference includes the word resilience. This is nowadays a magic word, I would say. You cannot get a research project without putting resilience in the keywords. Unfortunately, in Slovenia, we have not a proper, in Slovenian language, we have not a proper word for resilience. Which would be equivalent to the meaning, according to the Oxford Dictionary, this is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. And in the context of disaster management cycle, resilience is the capacity to prevent, to prepare for, to respond to, and to recover from the impacts of disasters. And I would say that the main step here, by far, the main step is prevention. This can be explained by looking at the so-called resilience curve, which shows the quality of infrastructure versus time. In a moment when let's say, earthquake hits, there is a sudden drop in the quality of infrastructure. If the structures are seismic resistant, this drop is small and recovery is quick. If the structures are not resistant, the drop is very large and the recovery is very costly and takes a very long time. So an extreme example is Haiti. As you know, there was an earthquake in 2010 with catastrophic consequences. The magnitude was not so large. It was only 7. But the consequences, death, wounded, homeless, this was catastrophic. And the problem is this was the most destructive earthquake that any country has experienced in terms of the number of fatalities relative to its population. The reason for this was inadequate construction practice due to poverty, lack of professionals in construction industry, and no seismic code. Another example, I would say, on the other end is a developed country, Chile. In the same year, magnitude was much stronger. So magnitude is a logarithmic scale, as you know, and this earthquake was in energy almost 1,000 times as strong regarding the energy. And in spite of this energy, the number of deaths was relatively low compared to the magnitude, but the damage was still extensive. So here we experienced a very good behavior of engineered structures. Some data from taller buildings built in last 20 years before the earthquakes, only 4 buildings collapsed and 50 were to be demolished. So this experience can be followed also and seen also after other earthquakes. So here is the statistics made after L'Aquila, Italy earthquake. Shown is damage to reinforced concrete buildings. And you can see a clear decrease of damage with increasing year of construction. And same trend can be observed after Kobe earthquake. Again, damage to building was decreasing with increasing year of construction. So this period of construction, they correspond to Japanese codes, different Japanese codes. So what we can see, modern seismic codes are able to prevent more or less collapses of the buildings. So one example from Chile earthquake, in the most hit area, the city of Concepcion, we found a building, a parking garage without any single crack. But unfortunately, in the same city, there was one of these 4 buildings which completely collapsed due to some problems in design. So this is this building Alto Rio before the earthquake. It was built just 2 years before the earthquake. It was an apartment building, and this is after the earthquake. But still, it's difficult to believe, but 79 people survived this collapse. So what we can say for new buildings, modern codes provide seismic resistance if they are implemented in design and construction. So what is the potential problem? Review of design and control of construction. Earthquake-resistant design is not completely trivial, and some skills are necessary. And without review, things like which we show before can happen. I would like, in addition to that, what I said about the present codes, I would like to emphasize something which is not very well known to general public. That is that the seismic code is mainly about saving lives, not buildings. So, for example, the aims of the European standard for earthquake-resistant structures called Eurocode 8, there are 3 aims. Human lives are protected, damage is limited, and structures important for civil protections remain operational. So please note, damage is limited, not damage is prevented. This is because of economic reasons. I will try to explain this by showing the diagram, load deformation diagram. In the case of in a usual situation, vertical loads, small wind load, and so, we are in this region, elastic region. That means no damage. But in the case of earthquake, we design for rare earthquakes, about 500 years return period. The probability of this event is 10% in 50 years, so relatively low percentage, relatively low probability. So how we design is for life safety, not for preventing of damage, for economic reasons, because it costs, earthquake-resistant design costs something. So, to demonstrate this, I will show a building from Chile, from the same earthquake in Santiago. From outside, it looks nice. But if we went to the basement, it was quite heavily damaged. And the building was evacuated, and of course, the owners and the tenants were not very happy. So, because of this, their tendency in most developed countries, like, for example, New Zealand, which they have a very bad experience with Christchurch earthquakes some years ago. So the tendency is to decrease the damage, to change the design from life safety to less damage, But of course, this costs money and it will take time, and not many countries can afford this. So now I will move to existing buildings, to old buildings. So I mean by existing buildings, buildings built without seismic codes or with outdated codes. We have already seen what happened in Haiti, and here is a picture from Turkey, Izmit earthquake, 1999. Very severe consequences. And this earthquake happened at the North Anatolian Fault. Many severe earthquakes happened at this fault in last century, and the location of this earthquake was here. And Istanbul is here. Istanbul has 15 million inhabitants, about 1.5 million buildings, a huge number built without seismic resistance. This is one of the most seismically of cities with highest seismic risk in the world. What can be done? Unfortunately, not much. Here I will show fatality rates from earthquakes. This was a study to show a little bit how many fatalities we expect from different earthquakes, in dependence on the shaking intensity. And this diagram shows that, for example, if there are 10,000 people subjected to violent shaking, so the strongest earthquakes, out of 10,000 people, it is expected that 3,000 would die in Iran and only 3 in California. The difference is mostly from building quality and construction times. In California, many wooden houses. In Iran, mostly unreinforced masonry and stone houses. So it's interesting that Italy is quite high in this plot, but this is the reason because there are many unreinforced masonry houses. So a few words about Ljubljana, the city where we are today, my hometown. In Ljubljana, I would say a moderate earthquake, magnitude 6, was in 1895. Ljubljana is not a big city, and at that time was even much smaller, of course. But 10% of buildings were destroyed and removed. At that time, we lived in Austro-Hungarian monarchy, and in the next year, a building order was issued which required some measures for unreinforced masonry buildings. And people in Ljubljana still remember 40 years ago the earthquake, and when they built this building in the center of Ljubljana, we called it Nebotičnik, which means skyscraper. At that time, it was the tallest building in the whole region. It was a reinforced concrete structure, and they put a lot of emphasis on earthquake resistance, of course, according to the knowledge which was available at the time. And it's interesting that the designers, they used seismic isolation. So this is a cross-section of the building, and here this detail is written Potresna rega, which means seismic dilatation. And as far as I know, this was one of the first engineering applications of seismic isolation. Actually, I haven't found a more earlier one. Maybe there were some. But then, unfortunately, after the Second World War, there was a time of poor quality, quick construction, and without seismic codes. At that time, we had no seismic codes, and some buildings like that were built in Ljubljana. This was built in '59. 13-story unreinforced masonry building. You can see when the facade was removed. I took these pictures, and you can see this is unreinforced masonry. According to today's standard, it could be maybe 2 stories or something like that, 3 stories, maximum 13 stories. And there are several buildings like this in Ljubljana. No seismic resistance. And you can see even that in one building they built a story of the top in addition. So what to do with these buildings? No, these are apartment, private owners. Retrofit is expensive, and it's not only financial problem, it's a problem of logistic. People have to go out for the period of the reconstruction. So I'm afraid that this is a mission impossible. It was easier with a student dormitory. Owner was the state, and there was no problem of logistics. So this building was built in '63, demolished in 2004, and rebuilt in 2006. This is the easiest solution, of course, but not applicable everywhere. So we have another problem in Ljubljana. These are elementary schools built before '63. '63 is an important year because in '63 we got the first seismic code. There are 14 schools like this in Ljubljana, 25 in other towns, all the same architectural system, of course not seismic resistant. And this is one of these schools, 100 meters from the place where we are and 100 meters from the governmental palace. When children are concerned, we are especially sensitive. And what happened in Italy? In Italy, a school collapsed in 2002 in a small town in Italy. Half of the population, which was at that time in the school, died. So this was really a catastrophe. And actually, this event accelerated seismic retrofit of schools all over the world. For example, a very good example is Cyprus, Greek Cyprus. They, in the period of 10 years, they checked all of their buildings, 660 school buildings. Half of them they found to be okay, but the other half they either demolished and replaced by new ones or retrofitted. There is a program going on in California in several municipalities. Mandatory seismic retrofit ordinances have been implemented, and it is required to retrofit the most vulnerable buildings. These are unreinforced masonry buildings, these are wood frame soft story structures, and these are non-ductile concrete structures. So each property owner of vulnerable buildings received a so-called order to comply and is required to complete retrofit or demolish the building in 7 years. Of course, there are financial incentives, so favorable loans and subventions and things like that. So what is the situation now? 3 months ago, these so-called orders to comply have been issued for all the soft-story buildings that need seismic upgrades. 1,500 already retrofitted and 6,400 in progress. So a few words about soft-story. Soft-story, I always told my students, this is enemy #1 of seismic behavior. So this is a hotel in L'Aquila before the earthquake. Everybody who knows something about earthquake engineering knows that such a building cannot survive a strong earthquake. And this is what happened in the earthquake, and many people died here. So I could spend whole my presentation just by showing collapses of soft-story buildings. So soft-story buildings are built because of architectural requirements. And I put here only 2 of them, one in Japan and the other one in Turkey. And here used to be the first story. There are thousands of buildings like that. So this is enemy number one. I will finish my examples with a retrofit of an unreinforced masonry building. So this is a building in Ljubljana, more than 100 years old, with wooden floors. What we did is a retrofit. We put some ties from one facade to another facade in order to prevent walls to fall out of the plane. So actually, this happened to be my building where I live. And very soon after the earthquake, after this retrofit, an earthquake, moderate earthquake happened in Slovenia, and journalists came, and we discussed different things, and I mentioned that I retrofitted this building, and then the next day there was an article in the daily newspaper, Potres bo Pfeiffer hišo saniral, what means an earthquake will happen, Pfeiffer fixed the house. So, you know this joke, there will be very cold winter, Indians are preparing firewood like crazy. So let me conclude. Earthquake resistance of structure, this is the key element of seismic resilience. As far as new structures are concerned, codes are okay, but they have to be observed. Of course, they do not prevent damage, but the tendency is to minimize damage. Problems are old structures built before codes or built without codes. Their retrofit is needed. Of course, not everything can be retrofitted, but it's reasonable to start with schools and hospitals. So I will conclude my presentation with this cartoon. We should not rely on Superman. What is needed is an action. Thank you very much.